So, what if I told you that the most critical document for your business isn't your business plan? It's your lease. Today, we're going to crack open the commercial lease, a piece of paper that can either fuel your success or become your biggest anchor.
Picture this. You find it, the perfect spot. You walk in and you just know, this is the place. The location is amazing, the vibe is right, you can practically see your business thriving here. It feels like home.
And then you get the paperwork. A thick, dense document full of legal jargon stands between you and your dream space. And trust me, what's hiding in that fine print can turn that dream into a total financial headache. To make sense of any commercial lease, you've got to start with one single fundamental question. It's the question that shapes the entire deal. And here it is. Who's on the hook for the building's operating expenses? Things like property taxes, insurance, maintenance, that kind of stuff. The answer to this one question defines the type of lease you're signing. And more importantly, who carries all the financial risk?
So this brings us to the two main players in the lease game, the gross lease and the net lease. They sound similar, but they are worlds apart. Let's break down what they are and which one might be right for you.
First up, we've got the gross lease. The easiest way to think about this is like an all-inclusive vacation. You pay one flat fee every month, and that's it. The landlord handles all the property expenses. It's super predictable for your budget, but it also means the landlord is taking on all the risk if, say, property taxes suddenly shoot up. And then there's the net lease. Now, this is the one you are going to see almost everywhere. With a net lease, you pay a lower base rent, but, and this is a big but, you also pay your share of the operating expenses. It's a pay-as-you-go system, which means the risk of rising costs gets shifted from the landlord straight over to you. This chart really puts it all in perspective. A gross lease gives you that wonderful predictability, but the landlord holds the risk. A net lease might look cheaper upfront with that lower base rent, but you're the one gambling on future costs. The big question you have to ask yourself is, which side of this risk equation do you want to be on? Of course, it's not always just one or the other. There's a middle ground called a modified gross lease, and it's pretty much what it sounds like, a hybrid where you and the landlord agree to split some of those operating costs. It's all about finding a compromise that works for both of you. Okay, so that covers the basics, but what if you're not just moving into a typical office space? What if you're actually building from the ground up, or maybe you're opening a retail shop? Well, that's where specialty leases enter the picture. First, you've got the land lease. This is for the really ambitious folks out there. You're leasing an empty plot of land and building your entire business from scratch. Now, because you're putting up a massive amount of cash to construct the building, these leases have to be incredibly long-term. We're talking 50, even 99 years, just so you have enough time to actually make your investment back. And next, we have the percentage lease. This is super common in retail. Here's how it works. You pay your normal base rent, but once your sales hit a certain magic number, called a break point, you start paying the landlord a small percentage of your sales on top of that. The whole idea is that it turns you and your landlord into partners. When you succeed, you both succeed. And this isn't some vague agreement. The math is literally spelled out right in your lease. That break point, the sales number you have to beat, is calculated by taking your annual rent and dividing it by the agreed-upon percentage. Any dollar you make over that amount, the landlord gets a little piece of. So how is that percentage rate decided? Well, it all comes down to negotiation and your type of business. If you're selling high markup items like jewelry, expect to pay a higher rate. If you're a high volume spot like a grocery store, you'll negotiate a much lower one. And of course, the big anchor stores, they get the best deals of all because they're the ones drawing the crowds in the first place. All right, so we've gone over the different lease types, but no matter which one you sign, what are you really paying for each month? Let's peel back the layers and break down your total rent, because I guarantee you it's a lot more than just a single number. Just look at this chart. It's so easy to fixate on that big base rent number. But in a typical net lease, a huge chunk of your payment, over a third in this case, is what's called additional rent. That's your slice of the operating expenses, and it's where a lot of unexpected costs can hide. One of these sneaky costs is something called a gross-up factor. This little clause allows a landlord to bill you for operating costs as if the building were 100% full, even if it's half empty. As this quote says, it can definitely feel like you're being forced to pay for your neighbor's vacant space. And here is another big one to look for, the capital expenditure pass-through. This lets your landlord make major building improvements. We're talking a new roof, a new HVAC system, repaving the whole parking lot, and then pass a chunk of that bill directly on to you. You could literally end up paying for a huge long-term upgrade to a building you don't even own.
Okay, I know that all sounds a little scary, but here is the good news, and it's the most important part. A lease is a negotiation, not a command. You have power here. You can and absolutely should ask for a better deal. Think of this as your negotiator's playbook. These are 4 of the biggest things you can ask for in almost any lease negotiation. Getting some free rent upfront, getting cash to build out your space, structuring your rent payments, and locking in your options for the future. First off, the rent-free period. This is an absolute game changer, especially for a new business. The landlord gives you a few months at the very beginning where you don't have to pay rent. That gives you some critical breathing room to handle moving costs and actually get up and running before that first big rent check is due. Next up is the Tenant Improvement Allowance, or TI for short. This is literally cash from the landlord to help you customize the space. Whether you need to build new offices, install special lighting for a studio, or put in new flooring, this allowance helps you create that perfect space without having to foot the entire bill yourself. And don't stop there. There's so much more you can ask for. How about graduated rent, where your payments start low and then slowly increase over time as your business grows? Or what about little perks like dedicated parking spots? And this is a big one. Negotiate your future rights and options now. Things like the right to renew your lease, or even the right to expand into the empty unit next door. So, when you get right down to it, you need to change how you think about your lease. It's not just a contract you sign and then file away. It's a living, breathing financial relationship. It is, for all intents and purposes, your business partner. So the real question is it a good one? Is your lease working for you, or are you just working for it?